Complete UEFA Champions League 2026-27 League Phase Draw Explained. See your team's opponents. The 2026-27 Champions League Phase Draw is complete. 36 teams now know the 8 opponents standing between them and the knockout stages, and there are some absolutely massive fixtures. Arsenal have Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Manchester City have Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona. Manchester United have Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid. Liverpool have Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan. And Aston Villa have Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona. But this is not the old Champions League group stage. There are no groups, there is one massive league table, and every club has 8 different opponents. So let's break down the complete 2026-27 Champions League draw, who everyone has been drawn against, which teams got the toughest schedules, and which clubs might have a much easier route into the knockout stages. The draw took place in Monaco on August 27th. The 36 clubs were divided into 4 pots of 9 based on UEFA's club coefficient rankings. Each team then received 2 opponents from every pot. One of those matches is at home, the other is away. That gives every club 4 home matches and 4 away matches. And there are restrictions that teams cannot face another club from their own country in the league phase, and a team cannot face more than 2 clubs from another individual country. The league phase begins in September. Match day 1 takes place from September 8th to 10, and the final league phase match day is January 27th, 2027. After those 8 matches, the entire 36-team table is ranked. The top 8 go directly into the round of 16. Teams finishing 9th through 24th enter the knockout playoffs, and teams finishing 25th through 36th are eliminated. So let's get into the actual draw. Starting with the English teams. Manchester United are back in the Champions League, and their draw is very interesting. United will face Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Roma, Sporting CP, RB Leipzig, Villarreal, Sabah, and Como. That's 8 completely different opponents, and there are some huge games in there. Bayern Munich is obviously the headline fixture. Atletico Madrid is another serious test. Roma and Sporting CP are also experienced European sides. And then you have Leipzig and Villarreal. So I wouldn't call this an easy draw for United, but I also wouldn't call it a nightmare. The Bayern and Atletico matches will probably tell us a lot about where Michael Carrick's Manchester United actually stand against elite European opposition. Now let's move to Arsenal. The defending Premier League champions have received one of the most interesting draws. Arsenal will face Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Real Betis, Lille, Napoli, Sabah, and Slavia Prague. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Napoli. That's a serious European schedule. And remember, Arsenal reached the Champions League final last season, so they won't be approaching this competition simply hoping to qualify. They'll be expected to challenge. The Real Madrid match is particularly interesting because Arsenal will face one of the biggest clubs in European football during the league phase, and Bayern Munich gives them another heavyweight test. But Arsenal also have matches against Sabah and Slavia Prague, so their challenge isn't just about surviving the big games. They need to collect points consistently across all 8. Now, Manchester City have PSG, Barcelona, Sporting CP, Porto, Napoli, RB Leipzig, AEK, Athens. And Lens, that is a seriously interesting draw. PSG at home, Barcelona away, Napoli at home, Leipzig away, and then Sporting Pro, AEK, and Lens. City have 2 of the biggest possible European matches in the league phase, and there is an extra storyline with Napoli because Kevin De Bruyne could face Manchester City after moving to Napoli. So that is another fixture that immediately stands out. Liverpool have also received an interesting draw. Liverpool will face Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan, Porto, Club Brugge, Villarreal, Fenerbahce, Lens, and LASK. Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan away, Porto at home. Those are probably the headline fixtures, but Liverpool also have several matches where they'll be expected to take maximum points. And then there is Aston Villa. Villa will face Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, Club Brugge, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, Viking, and Slavia Prague. That is arguably one of the toughest draws among the English clubs. PSG, Barcelona, Dortmund, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray. That's a lot of difficult European opposition, and Villa will have to balance those matches with their Premier League campaign. Now let's look beyond England. Real Madrid have a fascinating league phase. They will face Inter Milan, Arsenal, PSV, Roma, RB Leipzig, Shakhtar Donetsk, LASK, and AEK Athens. Real Madrid against Arsenal is one of the biggest matches of the entire league phase. And Madrid also have Inter and Leipzig. So there are several serious tests. Barcelona also have a very difficult schedule. Barcelona will face Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, Aston Villa, Sporting CP, Feyenoord, Galatasaray, Como, and Sabah. Barcelona against Manchester City, Barcelona against PSG, Barcelona against Aston Villa. That's a brutal run of headline fixtures. And PSG themselves have an interesting schedule. They will face Manchester City, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Real Betis, Villarreal, Aston Villa, and Galatasaray. The defending European champions have been handed plenty of heavyweight opposition. Bayern Munich also have a difficult route. They will face Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, Borussia Dortmund, Sporting CP, Real Betis, Napoli, Villarreal, and Slovan Bratislava. So Bayern will have Arsenal, PSG, Dortmund, and Napoli. That's an extremely demanding league phase. And that's the interesting thing about this format. You can't simply look at one difficult opponent. Every team has 8 matches. And because the league table includes all 36 clubs, every single result matters. A team could beat Real Madrid, then lose against a team from Pot 4, and suddenly those 3 points become extremely important. Now let's explain why the pots matter. Pot 1 contained Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Inter Milan, Manchester City, Arsenal, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. Pot 2 contained Borussia Dortmund, Roma, Sporting CP, Aston Villa, Porto, Manchester United, Club Brugge, Real Betis, and PSV. Pot 3 contained Feyenoord, Lille, Bodo Glimt, Napoli, RB Leipzig, Villarreal, Fenerbahce, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Galatasaray. Pot 4 contained Slavia Prague, Slovan Bratislava, Stuttgart, AEK Athens, LASK, Como, Lens, Viking, and Sabah. And this is where the new format becomes interesting. A Pot 1 team isn't necessarily guaranteed an easy route, because every club receives 2 opponents from Pot 1, 2 from Pot 2, 2 from Pot 3, and 2 from Pot 4. So even the best teams have to deal with difficult opposition. But the quality within each pot is also different. For example, Pot 3 contains Napoli, RB Leipzig, Villarreal, Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and Bodo Glimt. Those are not straightforward fixtures. And Pot 4 contains Como and Lens, 2 teams that can cause problems despite being in the lowest pot. So the draw can dramatically change the difficulty of a club's league phase. And that's exactly why fans immediately start comparing schedules. Who got the hardest draw? Who got the easiest? Who has the most difficult away trips? And who has the best chance of finishing inside the top 8. For Manchester United, I think Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid are the 2 obvious tests, but the rest of the schedule gives United opportunities. Roma, Sporting, Leipzig, Villarreal, Sabah, Como. United should be targeting a strong points return from those matches, because the objective shouldn't simply be finishing somewhere between 9th and 24th. United should be targeting the top 8. That would send them directly into the round of 16 and avoid the extra knockout playoff. The same applies to Arsenal. With Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in their schedule, Arsenal will have to be extremely consistent in the other 6 matches. Manchester City have PSG and Barcelona. Liverpool have Atletico and Inter. Aston Villa have PSG, Barcelona, and Dortmund. So the English teams have plenty of major European nights ahead. And there is another important detail. The exact match dates and kickoff times have not yet been assigned. UEFA says the fixture list will be communicated no later than August 29th. So we know the opponents, we know the home and away allocation, but we are still waiting for the exact schedule. The league phase begins September 8th, then October brings match days 2 and 3, November brings match days 4 and 5, December brings match day 6, January brings match days 7 and 8, and after January 27th, the league table will decide who survives. The top 8 are through. Places 9 to 24 have to fight through the playoffs. Places 25 to 36 are finished. And there is no Europa League parachute. That's important. If you finish 25th, your Champions League campaign is over. So every point matters. Now look at the bigger picture. This is the 3rd season using the new league phase format, and we're starting to understand why UEFA moved away from the traditional groups. Instead of 4-team groups, you have 36 clubs competing in one table. Instead of 6 group matches, you have 8 different opponents. Instead of knowing your European fate after 6 matches, you have to navigate a much larger league, and that creates more big games. more different opponents, and more opportunities for unexpected results. For fans, that's probably the biggest attraction. You can now see Manchester United against Bayern Munich, Arsenal against Real Madrid, Manchester City against Barcelona, Liverpool against Inter, and Aston Villa against PSG and Barcelona, all before the knockout stage. And that is only the beginning, because once the league phase finishes, the knockout stage becomes even more intense. The top 8 go directly into the round of 16. The teams from 9th to 24th have to survive the playoffs, and eventually, only one club will remain. The Champions League final will be played on June 5th, 2027, at the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid. So now we know the opponents, we know the pots, we know the format, and we know the biggest fixtures. But now I want to know what you think. Which club got the hardest Champions League draw? Which club got the easiest? Is Manchester United's draw good enough for a top 8 finish? Can Arsenal navigate Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Dortmund? Can Manchester City survive PSG and Barcelona? Can Liverpool challenge with Atletico Madrid and Inter? And what about Aston Villa? Did they get the nightmare draw? Tell me your team, and tell me how many points you think they'll finish with. Because the 2026-27 Champions League is officially underway. The opponents are known, the fixtures are coming, and in just a few weeks, Europe's biggest clubs go to war.